What if the man humanity trusted the most was never a savior, but a master of secrets? What if Morrow's promise of a brighter future was only a mask, hiding something so dangerous that it could shatter the very hope of survival? The world of alien Earth begins with silence, a silence born not from peace, but from ruin. Oceans have turned black, forests stand like skeletal remains, and the sky is no longer a shield but a warning. Humanity, fragile and broken, is clinging to its last chance. And in the middle of this collapse rises one man, Morrow. To the desperate, he appears like a beacon in the dark, a leader who claims to hold the final key to Earth's salvation. But here is where the story begins to twist. Because every savior carries shadows, and every plan, no matter how noble it looks on the surface, can hide a price too great to pay. Morrow doesn't come from the fringes of society. He emerges with the authority of knowledge, the certainty of vision, and the calm confidence that makes people listen. His speeches are filled with promises: renewal, rebirth, survival. He talks about cleansing the planet, restoring balance, and giving humanity a second chance. And in a time when despair eats at people like a disease, his words are not just heard, they are swallowed whole, like medicine to the sick, yet beneath the surface, doubts creep in. Why is Morrow so certain? Why does his plan sound less like a collective journey and more like a command to obey? From the very start, he frames himself not as a partner to humanity, but as its guide, its protector, almost its ruler. And people too weak to question, too desperate to resist? Let him imagine this moment, a world where no one else has answers, where scientists have failed, governments have collapsed, and leaders have turned into shadows of themselves. In that void, Morrow steps forward like a figure carved from destiny. His presence is magnetic. His certainty is terrifying. Because certainty, in a broken world, is more dangerous than chaos. The setup of Morrow's rise is not just about hope, it is about control. He offers light, but only if people follow his path without question. And this is where the first cracks appear. He does not share his knowledge freely. He reveals only fragments, never the full design. His words paint a picture of salvation, but the canvas he hides from the world may be painted in darker colors than anyone dares to imagine. This is the first layer of the secret. Morrow thrives not because of his brilliance alone, but because of the weakness of those around him. Humanity, starved of leaders, crowns him their savior. But what they do not see is the dangerous bargain being made: trust for survival, obedience for hope, faith for control. The stage is set. The people are ready to follow. And Morrow? He smiles, not with joy, but with the calm of someone who knows far more than he is willing to share. His plan is in motion. His power is growing. And the truth, the real truth behind his vision, remains locked away in the shadows. What happens when the key to survival is not about saving the Earth at all, but about reshaping it in a way no one asked for? That is the dark road humanity has begun to walk without even realizing it. Morrow does not rise like a soldier or a king. He rises like a prophet. His voice carries a weight that cuts through fear, through hunger, through despair. He speaks in simple words, words anyone can understand, but behind that simplicity is a web of persuasion. To the broken world, he paints a picture of hope so clear, so radiant, that it feels like truth. And that is his gift, making people believe not just in his plan, but in him. He calls his vision the restoration, a grand mission to heal the earth and rebuild humanity from its ruins. When Morrow speaks of it, the images he draws are almost dreamlike. Rivers flowing clean again, forests rising from dead soil, skies clearing as though nature itself bows to his will. He promises food for the starving, homes for the homeless, and unity for the fractured. His words are not just a speech, they are a lifeline. People begin to chant his name. They call him the architect of survival, the voice of destiny. Where governments had failed, Morrow now rules hearts. He does not command with force. He seduces with vision. Crowds gather wherever he goes, desperate to hear his next promise. Families clutch each other as if his words alone can keep them alive through the night. In a world stripped of faith, Morrow becomes faith itself, but here lies the brilliance of his facade. He never gives away too much. His plan, though presented as salvation, is always wrapped in mystery. He speaks of technology only he understands, of processes too advanced for ordinary minds. "Trust me," he says, "and you will see the world reborn." That is enough for most people. In their hunger for hope, they do not question the details. They do not ask what is hidden behind the curtain, and Morrow knows this. He thrives on it. His public vision is carefully designed, polished speeches, controlled appearances, carefully chosen symbols. He wears the colors of purity, surrounds himself with imagery of rebirth trees, water, children smiling. Every element is a stage, every word a performance. Yet beneath it all, there is something mechanical, something cold, like a man who has rehearsed salvation so many times he no longer feels it. Some whisper doubts in private corners. They say his eyes do not match his words. They say his smiles never reach his soul. But those whispers are drowned out by the roar of the desperate masses. And Morrow ensures it stays that way. For every doubt, he releases a new promise. For every suspicion, he unveils another spectacle: a garden sprouting from poisoned soil, a machine purifying water before their eyes. These miracles silence criticism and fuel devotion. The more people believe, the less they question. And the less they question, the more control he holds. This is the heart of his public vision, not just to inspire, but to blind. To make humanity so dependent on him that they cannot imagine survival without him. He does not just sell hope. He sells himself as the only vessel of hope. And that is far more powerful than any weapon, yet if you listen closely, his language betrays him. He does not say, "We will save the earth." He says, "I will restore the earth." He does not speak of collective effort. He speaks of his plan, his design, his command. Humanity is not a partner in his vision, it is the audience. And while the audience claps and cheers, the performance hides its darkest act. This is Morrow's genius. His public vision shines so brightly that few dare to look behind it. And those who do often vanish, their voices lost in the noise of worship. The people see him as a savior. But in truth, Morrow is crafting something far different than salvation. He is building a stage where he alone stands at the center, and everyone else becomes part of the script he has already written. The restoration may sound like a dream, but every dream has its shadow. And Morrow's dream, if looked at too closely, begins to feel less like salvation and more like control dressed in light. Asterisk beneath the glow of Morrow's grand speeches, there are shadows no one dares to touch. His vision of the restoration is dazzling, but if you peel back the layers, something sinister lurks beneath the promises. It begins with whispers, rumors of missing people, entire communities relocated in the name of progress, and experiments carried out in hidden laboratories far from the public eye. These whispers never make it to the stage, but they spread in quiet conversations. Like cracks in a perfect mirror, the first clue comes from the way Morrow guards his technology. Machines that can heal poisoned soil, structures that rise overnight, devices that bend nature to his will, all of it comes from him alone. He shares none of it freely. Even his closest advisors only glimpse fragments, never the whole. Knowledge becomes his currency, and secrecy becomes his shield. Why? Because if the truth behind his machines were revealed, the people would no longer see miracles. They would see horrors. Those who dig too deep often disappear. A journalist who questioned his methods vanishes after attending one of his press gatherings. A group of scientists who doubted the safety of his soil purifiers are reassigned, silenced, and never heard from again. And when families ask where their loved ones have gone, Morrow's officials reply with the same chilling phrase. They are serving the greater cause that is the mask he hides behind. But the reality is darker. His plan to restore the earth is not about balance, not about harmony with nature. It is about redesign. He is not repairing the planet. He is remaking it in his image. His machines strip away what remains of the old earth and replace it with something new, something controlled, something that belongs not to humanity, but to him, and what of the missing people. The secret begins to take shape here. Morrow's machines need more than metal and fuel. They need living subjects. Men, women, even children are taken under the guise of volunteering for the cause. They are never seen again. Whispers say they are tested, fused with technology, turned into something less than human but more than machine. Morrow does not seek to save humanity as it is. He seeks to evolve it, bend it, mold it until it fits his vision of a perfect Earth. What he calls the restoration is not a return to life, it is a transformation. And transformations, in his eyes, require sacrifice. He speaks of unity, but unity under his control. He speaks of survival, but survival only for those who obey. The rest, they are resources, test subjects, tools. This is the terrible truth hidden beneath the brilliance of his speeches. Morrow does not see himself as a leader of humanity. He sees himself as its architect. And architects do not ask permission from their creations, they simply build. The evidence is scattered but undeniable. A farmer notices his crops growing unnaturally fast after Morrow's intervention, only to realize the food carries a metallic aftertaste. A mother finds her child returned from a volunteer program, but the child is no longer the same, eyes distant, movements stiff, as if some part of humanity has been drained away. These fragments form a picture no one wants to accept. Morrow's plan is not about saving life as it is, but creating a new kind of life. Loyal only to him. And still, the crowds cheer. They see the surface, the clean water, the green fields, the shining cities, but they do not see the blood, the suffering, the silence that lies beneath. Morrow hides his secrets behind the glow of progress. And in a world desperate for hope, few are willing to ask what that progress truly costs. This is the unveiling of the dark secret. Morrow's vision is not salvation. It is domination. He is not building a future for humanity. He is building a future where humanity itself is rewritten, reshaped, and controlled by his hand. And the most chilling truth of all? The people have already agreed to it. They just don't realize what they signed away. The restoration is not a dream. It is a trap. And by the time humanity sees it for what it really is, it may already be too late. The truth about Morrow's plan is like a storm scene at first, but inevitable once it breaks. His speeches still echo with hope, but behind the walls of his sanctuaries, the price of that hope grows heavier. Entire towns are relocated for safety, he says. The people are promised new homes, better food, cleaner air, and yet no one outside his circle ever sees these promised lands. They vanish into silence, and silence in a world full of desperate cries is the loudest warning of all. The consequences begin slowly, like shadows stretching across the horizon. Strange patterns appear in nature, rivers running clear but fish floating lifeless, forests blooming overnight only to collapse into ash within days. The earth is not healing, it is being rewritten. Morrow's machines force it into a shape that is unnatural, unstable. He calls it progress. But progress should not kill so quietly, should not erase so completely. Humanity does not yet see it, but the world is being reshaped into something alien. Not the earth they lost, but the earth Morrow wants. A world that listens to his design, bends to his machines, and depends on his technology to exist. The planet no longer belongs to its people, it belongs to him. And what of those who resist? They are marked as obstacles, enemies of the restoration. At first they are ridiculed, dismissed as fearmongers. But soon they disappear just like the others. Villages that reject his aid find their food supplies cut off. Families who speak against him are branded traitors. The choice is clear, obey or vanish. In the end, resistance is not crushed with violence, it is suffocated with control. This is the true brilliance, and the true terror of Morrow's plan. He does not need to rule through armies. He rules through hope. And when hope is the only thing people have left, it becomes the strongest chain of all. But there is a fracture forming. A handful of survivors, broken by loss and sharpened by suspicion, begin to see the cracks in his vision. They whisper of experiments, of twisted human forms hidden in Morrow's laboratories, of a future where mankind is no longer human at all. They speak of a final stage in his plan, something so vast, so irreversible that once it begins, there will be no turning back, and this is where the fear grows deeper, because Morrow's plan is not finished. Everything until now, the speeches, the miracles, the silencing of dissent, has only been preparation? His true design still lies hidden, locked away in the heart of his machines. A design not meant to restore Earth, but to erase the old world entirely and replace it with one that belongs only to him. The consequences, then, are not just about survival, they are about identity. What will become of humanity when it is no longer free to choose, when every breath, every bite of food, every drop of water flows through Morrow's hand? What will happen when people realize too late that the savior they trusted was never saving them at all, he was rewriting them? The stage is set for the final revelation. And here is the chilling truth: the restoration is already too far along. The forests are changing, the rivers are no longer natural, and the people, those who have returned from Morrow's programs, are no longer the same. His dream is no longer just a vision. It is alive, and it is spreading dots, so the question becomes not whether Morrow will succeed, but whether anyone can stop him. Can humanity break free from the grip of its own desperation? Or has it already surrendered willingly to a future it cannot escape? The dark secret is now in the open, but the true horror lies ahead. Because if Morrow's final stage is unleashed, the Earth will not be restored. It will be reborn. And humanity, as it once was, will vanish into memory. The world waits on the edge of transformation. And the question that lingers in the silence is this: when the truth finally reveals itself, will anyone be left to resist, or will Morrow's vision become the only future that remains?